very special guest, Amber Hill. When did we meet?
Uh,
In 2010?
over 10 years ago. Yeah,
No, before.
almost 15 years at this point. It's like,
Insane. Like a long time ago. But now
yes,
we are grown adults,
yes,
um,
yes.
doing big things, buying real estate, owning
Hmm.
homes, having
Hmm.
jobs,
Adulting.
all of the
Yes,
adulting things. Love it. And the power of social media keeping us in touch and
definitely.
keeping us up to date. So, all right, people are joining on here, we have Amber, who has bought a few homes, New Jersey and Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
starting back in 2016, all the way up until recently, 2022. And we're going to talk about the journey into buying your first home, second, your third, all of it, the strategy behind it. And as people are listening, questions you have, put them in the comments for Amber, or you can send us a DM or just follow up with us after, get in touch. Any questions you have, because you'll definitely be inspired after today's story. So,
Awesome.
Amber, you can take it away. So, first, tell us okay, I like to start with like, what is your favorite part of your home now?
Okay.
But I want to go all the way back to the beginning actually and say, what was your favorite part about your first home? Location, something about
Hmm.
the actual home. Like, what were you thinking when you bought your very first home? And did you live in the first home?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I did.
So first home you bought, this was back in 2016, and you lived in it for a little while. What was your favorite part about the home at that time?
Yeah. So the first home that I bought was a townhome in South Jersey. And, when I was looking, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the biggest purchase of my life. And I'm so excited and I can't wait. And like, you're house hunting and you're like, oh, I want a big bathroom and I want this. And really at the time, I was trying to figure out how I could get best of both worlds. And, I had this little, I really want my own home, and there's certain things that I wanted. It had to have a garage, but I really wanted to find something that could be a good investment. And at the time, my parents had previously been in real estate and owned condos in South Jersey. But my mom was saying, you need to get a multifamily property and you have to live in one and rent it out to someone else. And, you know, manage it. And I said, I do not want to live with my tenants. You are absolutely crazy. Oh no, I need a garage and I need this and that. And so then I got this little, future self guilt where I was like, oh, I really need to make an investment and not just go out and buy something right now. And so I did find best of both worlds. It was actually a townhome in South Jersey that at the time a short sale had fallen through. So I wasn't in a rush. I was living with my parents and, I was traveling a lot for work. So that was also best of both worlds because I lived with my parents, but I didn't have to see them often.
Yeah.
um, and so when I stumbled upon this little development of townhomes, they were new build construction in 2008, 2009. And so a lot of folks that were in there had pre-purchased them and had them built. And then we know what happened to the industry in 2008 and 2009. A lot of people were underwater, either couldn't pay their mortgages and foreclosed, or just had to ride out living there for 10 to 15 years until the market changed. So in 2016, I bought that townhome as a short sale fell through with a bank and another buyer. We just happened to see it, I want to say, like in the beginning of the month. It had to have been the first or second or third of the month because we ended up closing by the end of the month. And
Whoa.
now for a short sale, that is like completely unheard of. You're working with a bank as opposed to another buyer. But because
Yeah.
the previous buyer had fallen through, the bank was like, we're just ready to offload this. So I got very lucky. I consider myself very, very blessed that I was able to get a townhome. It was 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, had a garage on the bottom. And, as I was looking at the other models in that neighborhood, they were all already, 30 to 40,000 higher than where this was listed. So I was like, you know what? There's already some equity as opposed to the comps, and I still have space, and it will be an investment downline. Don't know when downline will be, but I did always have a plan to rent it. So that was
Okay.
also in proximity to Fort Dix. And I really started looking into a strategy of renting to Army families. And someone had said, Army folks are great. They're long term, whether that's like 2 to 3 years, but you're not doing a turnover year after year. Depending on their level in the Army, they have certain housing stipends. So that they have that income that's set aside for housing needs. They're militant. They keep the place perfectly clean. It looks exactly how it looks when they moved in is when they move out. So I said, you know what? I'm 15 minutes from Fort Dix. Like, this will be my future goal to rent this.
Love
Um,
it.
so my now husband and I at the time, we lived there, and we're traveling for work and just doing all the things, and I didn't do much with real estate besides just educating and kind of figuring out what our next move would be. And so that was 2016. Come 2020, the world just explodes, and everyone is working through the pandemic and trying to figure out how to move from smaller spaces to larger homes, and interest rates are at an all-time low. So the market just went insane. And now this house that I bought as a short sale is astronomically, like, we're seeing homes in the neighborhood just go up for like insane amount of the listing price.
Yeah. So you're
And
like, wait, I bought this house at this price. Now it's like
Mhm.
worth way
Way
more.
more, yeah. And we were like, we don't is this even worth this much? Like, I don't know how they're getting this amount. And I think everybody felt that during the pandemic, because at the time, my husband and I had just got married. So bought that house in 2016, got married in 2019, and we're like, oh, we're going to go house hunting with the rest of the world. And it was just impossible. So it was like, yeah, this house may be worth, after 4 years, we've got equity, we've got pay down, and we now have the market exploding. It may be worth a lot, but now everything else is just as expensive.
Right.
So, in looking at that and then really saying investing in real estate is definitely something that we want to go full fledged with, we decided to sell at the height, and we looked at our sister state, which is Pennsylvania. And so that's how we moved over the bridge, and we just, between taxes and, you know, the cost of living here is less expensive. We didn't have kids at the time. Now we have a 6-month-old. So that also changes what our future strategy will be. But at the time we didn't have kids, and we're like, you know what? We're paying $8,000 in New Jersey taxes, when over the bridge you're looking at 3 and 4. Like, that's saving on our monthly, which then gets some cash flow from the monthly rental back into our pocket. So instead of buying all of the things that we would have loved to buy with the sale of that house, we ended up buying 2 properties here in Pennsylvania. And they're
Okay.
actually around the corner from each other. So we were able to just maximize those dollars as much as possible. And that's really kickstarted our investing journey.
Okay. So you sold that, you took advantage of the market being really high
Mhm,
during COVID times, sold that house for way more than you bought it for, had a lot of
mhm.
this extra cash, but you now needed somewhere to live. So
Yes.
one of those houses you bought, you had to live
Yes, yes.
in. Okay.
So we are in a rental community in a suburb of Philadelphia. So we're in Manayunk, right? Um, it's known as like a small college town. But again, because of the market, right? Because of folks not being able to maybe move to the suburbs because of the cost of living right now, we're finding that there's young families just all over Manayunk. So not only do you have the rental community, which is whatever percentage of Manayunk, but then you have young families who are also looking for homes. So there's just a stability here. I would say it's a B class neighborhood. So
Mm,
you have the stability, you have, a desirability, you have a mix of students and young families to where there's always been that demand for rental.
very nice. So now, even though you thought in your first purchase, oh, I can rent this out,
Mhm.
it's gonna work out. It never happened with that property.
Yeah, and
But now,
that came down to numbers, right? And I'm saying to my husband, "I'm keeping this forever. This is the first house we ever bought. The plan is to make this a rental." And when we did side by side, after mortgage, after HOA, and maybe renting it for easy math, $2,000, we were gonna net $300 a month. So over the course of the year, a couple $1,000, and that's if nothing breaks, right? You
yeah,
still have to move them in. You have to do whatever it takes to get. You have to
upkeep.
list. You have to market. You have to all of the things. Or we could sell now and get the cash and just make sure again that we were maximizing those dollars so that we would still have future rental opportunity.
Yes, exactly. So then one house you bought to live in, and then you bought another house never to live in, just to rent.
A multifamily property, yeah. So we actually inherited that property, inherited the tenants. I had to wait for those tenants to move out, to make updates, to do,
Mm,
minor updates. But again, get that re-rented into one of the units. We did the backyard. We did cabinets, hardware, all new fixtures, all new paint. And then the other tenant has just decided to continue to extend their lease. So we've been self-managing, and we've had a really good experience with that multifamily property for now. Yeah.
nice.
Mhm.
Self-managing. People get nervous about that. Like, "Oh, I don't wanna can't manage the property," but
Yeah,
how is it really? Like, I mean, so you technically have 1 house, but it's 2 units, so you're managing 2 different tenants.
correct. Yep. And then the home that we're currently in is a townhome, Philadelphia row home, which will
Mm,
also be a rental because, as I mentioned, we now have a 6-month-old, so we need to we need space, we need offices, we need yard for her, we need,
right.
but and again, part of the plan of when will we have time to kind of make the sacrifices and, not spend certain money on, at the time we didn't have daycare and we didn't have other expenses. So we were able to put the rental um, dream as the priority and get that started because now we know that for the next 2, 3, 4 years will be daycare is very expensive. I'll just say that.
Yes,
It's like a monthly mortgage payment.
that's what I've heard. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That is rough. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you were thinking about buying this house that you now live in,
Mhm.
you're thinking, "Okay, can we live here ourselves?" But also, what were some other things you were considering to make sure it was a good investment for your future selves too?
Mhm. Yeah. So I think whenever you talk to anyone about real estate, it's always about the numbers, right? Like, there's neighborhood, obviously the location, desirability, but the numbers have to work. You don't want to purchase something and say, yeah, I'm going to make this a rental, but like your cash flow is negative $200 per month. Like it has to work.
Yep.
So timing was very key, right? Because this was 2022 and June 2022, so rates were already starting to creep, just starting to creep up. So, in the threes and in the fours, which we had 2.5 or 3 years of people at 2%, 2.5%, 3%. So we were like, again, you have to be ready. And Nicole, you said something earlier of don't overthink it. You have to be ready to like jump in and make the move, or else I wouldn't say you'll miss the boat because time is on everyone's side, but you may miss an opportunity. You'll miss an entry time where you could have just gotten in, and those numbers still work. So that was the big thing. It was like, we have this amount of time, and let's just kind of strike while we have it, because we might not get the opportunity to do this again. And that was, personally for us, but also I think everyone has to, like, take a look at where they are in their current life and say, like, "What can we do right now with what we have right now?"
Yes, exactly. Is it a don't let perfect get in the way of good?
Yeah, yeah.
If it makes sense, it makes sense. Don't
Mhm,
think too much about it because there's going to be like you might have been overthinking it a lot with the first property, but
mhm,
then by the second, the third, like now you're just like, does it make financial sense?
mhm,
Is it in
mhm,
a desirable area?
mhm,
Am I going to be here forever? Do I plan to have kids? Do I want to have a dog that's going to need something else? Like, is my job going to move? Do I work from
mhm.
home? Like all these things you kind of can control and you know
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Let that drive your decision, not factors like the market and things that you cannot control that are out of your control.
Correct, correct.
Don't let
Yeah,
that
yeah.
drive you.
I
So that's
think, one of the you asked, like, what it was that we were really considering, and it's for us, it's location. So, Manayunk is Manayunk. I think a lot of people hear Manayunk and they're like, "Oh, okay, like, awesome, like, that's such, like, a cute little town in Philly," but it's a bigger town, and it's part of Roxborough, which I never
mm,
even heard of Roxborough before, um, but we are just far enough back from Main Street that it's still walkable, but not close enough to where if there's an event on Main Street that people are, like, walking by our front door all day.
right,
So,
exactly.
I personally love our location because when there's the art festival on Main Street or the food truck festival, we can walk, and other people are so far back, like, they're parking on our street to go. So, it's kind of like we're close enough to touch it, but, like, still far enough to where we're not affected by every little thing that happens, but if we choose to wanna be involved in those, activities, which is why we enjoy living here,
Yes.
we're like, grab the stroller, grab the dog, and walk down, get coffee, like, we can, work in the coffee shop during the week without, feeling like we live right on Main Street. Like, it's a little difficult. Like, it sounds great in theory, but, like, people who live on Main Street are like, "Oh my gosh, there's always it's too much, it gets overwhelming."
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
And how did you go about making your priority list of like where in either situation, like, but maybe when it was the two of you already together, like that could be more difficult. You both have opinions.
Mhm.
Like, how did you make the decision to how did you make it easier on yourselves when making a decision? Prioritizing. How did you go about prioritizing the things that you definitely needed versus like nice to haves? Okay, this is not going to be a deal breaker type thing.
Mhm. As far as in the home or for,
Yeah,
like, our
all about
overall.
it. Yeah.
So, I think that if you kind of just, like, put in perspective that, like, anything can be maybe updated or fixed or changed, like, there's so much flexibility. The one thing that you can't get, especially in the city, is, like, more space. So,
Mm,
actually, both of the properties that we purchased, the multifamily has a huge backyard. So big that it's to the point where if we wanted to build an addition on the back, which was a huge yes, it was just a huge I mean, again, like, your mouth drops and you're like, "Oh my gosh." So I'm already thinking, like, we could add another studio on the back here, of course, with the zoning if it was to allow, but I know that we have enough depth to potentially add on to that property. So that was something. The property that we're currently in, we also have a back area. So that allows for people to have more space. Like, you're in the city, you need that patio, you need that little walkout, you need something besides just the property that you're in because you're already in the city, everything's already so close. So that just contributes to the desirability of the property. I think that was the biggest thing with these. Also, multiple bathrooms.
mm,
I read something the other day about Philly, like, people forget this isn't old city, there are still a lot of houses that have one bathroom. So we have a whole addition on the back of this property that has an additional bathroom. And again, that'll just be more desirable for a larger family with a higher rent that we would want in this particular property. So it's
Nice.
just like looking at how is this going to bring us like maximum return when it comes to making these a rental, and add it, whatever we add into our portfolio has ways to force appreciation
Mm.
by just making minor updates, but the bones were already there and the space was already there, which is hard to find in Philly.
Yes, very good. Very good point. There's things that you almost, if you have the right people around your
Mhm.
life that you trust or you can go to, even if you don't, like, you can find it. I
You
mean,
can
anything
find them.
on
Yeah.
the internet these
Mhm.
days. So just there are things that can be changed, and that's
Mhm.
most things. And then there are
Mhm.
things that absolutely cannot be changed, like where the house is located and how much
Yes.
land it has. So
Yep.
if those are if that's driving your decision, good. If
Mhm.
something like a wall that could be knocked down is driving your decision, that's not good, because that you're gonna miss out, because you're never gonna find
Yeah.
perfect, all-encompassing
Mhm.
house, um, and you'll just waste your time going in circles
Mhm.
forever
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
drive yourself crazy. So yeah, think about things you cannot control and focus on those, and then anything else you can control and have an impact on, just work with your professionals, your real estate
Mhm.
agent, ask them for advice, on
Yeah.
how things can be changed. And then the most important thing you're saying is think long term.
Yes.
What is your next what is your next game plan? And like, you had family that was in real estate, so that's good. People
Mhm.
that maybe don't, but that's okay. Talk to people
Talk
like
to
Amber,
them.
like, talk
Yeah.
to your friend, talk to your neighbor, talk to anybody you know who's ever bought a house or invested in real estate, and just get their feelings on it and learn about their
Mhm.
feelings, and think for yourself, what is it that you want um,
Yeah.
for your future? And that can
Yeah.
help you in deciding on where to buy.
Yeah. Real estate is definitely a long-term game. So, what happened in 2020, like, we don't know when that will ever happen again, right? Like, I was in a home for 4 years with double the amount of equity that you would typically see, right? That rate of the way that it jumped is not normal. So, but you can count on 3 to 5% each year, and that small uptick as you go on and on. But, again, there's other things that you can do to increase the value of the property. So, it's just all of those things, you learn them as you go along, and talking to people in the community, in the real estate community, listening to things like this, doing a lot of education. I mean, pre-pandemic, I had an hour commute both ways to my job, and I listened to Bigger Pockets on the way up and on the way down.
Nice.
So I did a lot of educating before I ever even made a move, which yeah, I felt comfortable doing that, but, like, you really don't need to. You have to take action, and
That's right.
I think that, if you don't take action, like, you're never gonna have a property to actually, learn from.
Yeah, it kinda learn as
Mhm.
you go, and, like, every step of the way is gonna be a new step, a new journey. But it's the same thing people say about having kids, like, you can never be ready.
Yeah,
You're
I
never
was just
like,
gonna say
"Oh, I'm
that.
ready today." It's like,
That was me too. I'm
you
like,
just
"I'm gonna have to be surprised," and then they're like, "Oh, surprise." Like, yeah, and I'm like, "Great, she's awesome. Like, I should have done this
Yeah.
years ago."
Yes, exactly. It's the same
Yes.
thing. Any big
Yeah.
decision in your life, you're never gonna be ready for it.
Mhm.
You're never gonna be ready for it. You just have to make sure you're supported in your life by good
Yeah.
people, and you will figure it out as you go.
And
But
there's so many people that are passionate about the topic that, yeah, like if your mom or dad wasn't in real estate, or if your brother or sister is like, "Oh my god, stop talking about this, like, I don't care." There are people like us who will talk about it
yes, find
all
people
day, so
find, like, groups, or, like, either online
Yes.
groups or in-person groups.
Yeah.
Find people that wanna talk about what you wanna talk about. Yeah, don't let
Mhm.
other don't let other factors stop you.
Yeah.
That's me too. Like my family's like, shut up. We don't want to talk about this anymore. My
Yeah.
friends are like, you're too obsessed. I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
yes, I am.
It's
Thank
passion.
you. Passion, yes.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah.
people who want to talk to you about these things if you are
Definitely.
interested. That is a
Mhm.
good point. But all right, going back to you getting started on your journey, this is a big question people always have is how did you go about finding and choosing the real estate agent to work with?
Mhm. Yeah. That's a good question. So, um, again, being so intentional. If you want to there's two parts to our homes, right? Our homes are where we live, it's where we grow, it's, you want to be safe, you have that, and then you have when you look at it from an investment standpoint, you want to also be shopping with somebody who's looking at it from an investment standpoint. So you have to, when you have that conversation with a real estate agent, one, everyone needs to know that they're working for you. They are searching for what you're looking for. And if they don't have an investor mindset, you don't have to work with them. You can find somebody else who's more along the lines of who will show you, hey, I think this is a great opportunity for you. It's in a neighborhood that's up and coming, or it needs a little bit of work, but I know from my experience with other investors that you could maybe make some updates for $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000. Like there's hardwood under these carpets. There are different archetypes of real estate agents, and you just have to find one that works best for you. Um, when my sister was house hunting, I was helping her, and she stumbled upon an agent who is a investor friendly agent. And then, of course, like the first time she met with him, I was like, I'm coming, and grilled him, and he was awesome. And I ended up using him as well. But
Nice.
I told him from the start, I had always wanted to do multifamily. So we set up my portal with my filters and the qualifications that I wanted for a multifamily property in certain zip codes, certain price range, and then he knew, I want this, I don't want full rehab, I want minor updates. So those were being fed to me as soon as I sent him, this is my vision, this is my strategy. Now, for someone who doesn't know how to do that or what they want, you just have to ask your agent, hey, are you investor friendly? Do you work with investors? Do you invest yourself? Where do you invest? Ask those questions. It's almost like an interview. And
Yes.
just know that you're not bound to working with that person. And you want to work with, in any industry, you want to work with people that you like and
Yes.
people that you trust. So, if you find that person and you're like, wow, I really like them, work with them, and you'll feel more comfortable to make such a big decision in your life.
That's right. I think I worked with 3 different agents the first time I bought a home, which is
Yeah, I
but
mean, it's
I
not
I didn't I
unheard
just
of.
didn't realize I wasn't aware of the process necessarily, and,
Mhm.
I just was kind of maybe not serious in the beginning and then
Mm,
but yeah, like, also as a consumer, I should have been probably more honest, like, be honest with where you are and what you're looking
yes.
for, and don't,
Yeah.
like, try to waste anybody's time, but
Yeah.
yeah, like, just be honest, own it, like, you're
Mhm.
allowed to feel however you feel and do whatever you wanna do, you're in
Yeah.
control,
Yeah.
and yeah, like, interview them as if you are
Mhm.
hiring them for a job because you are.
You are. There's there's a commission fee that goes off the top of when you're buying that house, and like it is well deserved for the really great agents. I mean, I for my first home in New Jersey, there was an inspection that had to be done. I couldn't be there. Again, I worked an hour away, and this was pre-pandemic. This was pre working from home, just have them come during my lunch. No, there was none of that. My agent was like, you can't be there, I'll be there. Like, your agent is your partner in buying, and you just want to make sure that the person that you're going to work with can do that for you. But they also have to have the experience to do that for you. So yeah, interview, ask those questions, get really comfortable. And like you said, on the reciprocating side, be honest with where you are. Hey, I don't know anything about the market. I want to invest. I don't know how. I'm saving right now, so I may not be buying for another year. Like, just be honest. And they
Yeah.
can set you up that portal and you
Yeah.
can look all the time. That's what I do at night. I'm still like scrolling. I'm like
That's right.
constantly, I'm looking, like I'm not buying right now. We've just closed on something, or we're looking for our personal home right now, but you still can look. There's no harm in just developing that relationship.
That's right. That's right. And any point in the process you're at, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
good
Mhm.
to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, were there when think back to your first getting into buying a home,
Mhm.
were there fees that you didn't expect that you learned about in the beginning of the process?
Yeah. Um, Definitely. And I think take heed to, when they say there's the cost of the home, and then there's the closing fees, and then in New Jersey, I mean, there's taxes and fees and transfer and title, and like I said, inspections, and there's all kinds of things that you don't know are going to pop up. And it may seem like a lot because they're all individual, right? It's like, okay, now I need $175 for the fire inspection, or the cert of occupancy, or the taxes are this 1,200, and then you have to make sure you have a big bucket of money in escrow, and you're like, oh my gosh. But if you do that range, right, of your down payment, if you're going through FHA, is 3.5%, commercial 5 to 10%, sorry, conventional, not commercial, 5 to 10%. But then you have that, what is it, another 6 to 8% of what may come out of pocket. Have those buckets of money set aside, and don't get so caught up on the $100 here,
Yeah.
$1,900 here. Again, this all sounds kind of scary, but
Yeah.
there's definitely things that come up where you're like, whoa, I didn't know I was going to have to pay for that. In the end, it's all part of that closing cost bucket. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So when you get those initial estimates up front, yeah, you can assume probably 3 to I mean, sorry, you can probably assume like 6 to 10%
Mhm.
total
Mhm.
of like the
Total.
whole
Yep.
house. So like
Yep.
you're gonna buy a $300,000 house, like $30,000 in
Mhm. Yep.
cost,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Now, obviously, you can get grants and things to like you can get like assistance, you can get
You
a
could get
gift,
seller f
the
seller yep,
seller
seller assist. I
seller
mean,
assist can give you money,
yeah.
but just like knowing that number sort of in your head, um, you can obviously put more money down if you have
Mhm.
it, but the
Mhm.
minimum you have to put down is 3 or 3.5%. Yeah, just knowing that, and um, a lot of people a lot of people don't realize the bulk of the money. There are fees, the title company, the county to record your documents and your
Mhm.
transfer tax and all that. But a like big bulk of the money that you're paying day one when you close on the house is just your money,
Mhm.
but prepaid in advance.
Correct.
For
Yep.
your homeowner's insurance,
Yep.
you got to pay a whole year of homeowner's insurance, make sure the home
Mhm.
is insured in case of fire or flood or any damage.
Mhm.
That's a bulk. Your property taxes, they want you to pay those a lot of months in advance,
Yep.
so you're not behind on
Mhm.
paying those, like, day
All
one.
building up escrow and just yeah.
Exactly, and the escrow account, yeah, you mentioned that. Escrow account is really just this account that's separate from everything else where they hold your own money,
Mhm.
third
Mhm.
party
Yep.
account. They're holding your money, and they're paying your property taxes
For
on
you.
your behalf from
Yep.
that account,
Yeah. Yeah.
and homeowner's insurance.
Which is nice because then you're not
Yeah,
paying
you
making
can just
3 different payments every single month, and yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess people do waive that they waive having the escrow, but then you have
Mhm.
to, on your own, pay your property taxes, remember to pay them, like, when are they due?
Mhm.
Every
Mhm.
quarter, every year, like, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't cost you anything to have it.
KISS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Yes.
Yes.
Stupid. Oh, yeah. The keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I
Um,
always leave off the last sentence.
um, what about, okay, you can say this for any of the properties maybe, but how did
Mhm.
you know it was time to make an offer? Like, was there one where you were like, okay, I feel it. How do you know it's time to make
Yeah. So for the very first one that I bought in 2016, like I said, it was we saw it, and I didn't know, my agent knew from the other agent again, which is like, you want an agent that is well respected in the community, who other agents will speak to freely, because there are some things like they can't say, oh, we have a higher offer, it's 301,000. Like they could just say, oh, you should really come in strong. Like you want to make sure that that agent is respected so that they have rapport. So
Mhm.
my agent, you know, was working with, well, it was through the bank and another buyer, but either way, she found out that they fell through. And it was, you have to jump on this or else, it's a short sale. And it was priced so low because it was coming from the bank. I was like, again, you're missing an opportunity. So, besides my little tingle, it's just looking at the numbers, it was so low and everything around it was already 30 to 40 higher.
Whoa.
So, I was actually talking about it with my parents, and my dad said, you can't lose. And I was like, all right, you can't lose. Like, it is what it is. Let's do it.
Yes.
Um, the multifamily went up in the height of COVID, and one of the tenants, as soon as it went up, I went to go see it, and I couldn't get into the one unit because one of the tenants tested positive. This was on the first day that it went up. And so my agent called the other agent, and they were like, we really like it. We didn't see the other unit. Um, we only saw what was online, but like, is there any way we can see it? And they're like, well, she has COVID, but if you want to see it, you can see it. And we were like outside looking, and this is 2020, or like, it was when it was like, oh my God, she has COVID. Like, we're not, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So the owner was going to pull it down and start showings again the next week. And again, this was when things are going, a multifamily property with great tenants. It was in good condition. I'm like, this thing is going to go. So I told him, stop the showings, and I offered 10,000 over asking. Otherwise, we would have paid 30,000 over asking to get it, right? So he was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm not going to wait for her to be over COVID, pull down the listing, put the listing back up. Because, again, this was at a time where it was, you quarantine for 10 days, then you wear a mask for 5 more days. Like, he
Yeah,
was
too
like, I want
long.
to be done.
Yep.
So that was like, listen, it's a win-win, because then I'm not fighting with other people once this goes back on the market. And seeing it day one and him getting the listing off the market day one, it was like, let's do it.
Yeah, that's very good. See, now most people aren't thinking this way when they're just a consumer, but it's important to have
Mhm.
knowledgeable people around you, and the
Mhm.
real estate agent, the professionals you work
The
with have
agent.
knowledge. Yeah, they can kind of guide you, because it you don't want to get to the point where you're bidding against other people. Like
Competing.
because now you, like you said, you spent 10,000 more, but you would have spent 30,000 more if you're trying to
And I
compete
didn't
against other
have
people.
30,000 more to spend, right? I
You
would
don't
have,
have it.
like, I'm like, I have 10. I have 9,099.999 cents. Like, will you maybe accept my
Make it work.
offer? Right? Like, by the way, there's investors from New York who will just wire this person
The cash.
50,000 over, and yeah, and be done.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
it was just kind of like, where can I get in so that I can start my journey? I'm two people, and we're just trying to, take the little bit of pot that we got from our sale, and, like, again, make it go as far as possible.
Right. So you want to be little bit more of a savvy
Mhm.
consumer buyer. You want to
Mhm.
be a little tick above the rest of the consumers, because if you're
Mhm.
just in the regular
Exactly.
mix, you'll get blown over by the rest of the people. Like
Yeah.
you'll get knocked out. So
Yeah.
have a little bit of an edge. It's not crazy a lot amount. You're not these New York City investors with millions of
Yeah.
dollars to throw cash at it, but you're just like a little tick above. And it can
Yeah.
be simple, like you said, listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, getting a nice professional that you enjoy working with and asking them about their experience, or
Yeah.
just talking to your neighbor, your friend, someone from church, like
Yep.
anybody in your life that is just a regular consumer as well,
Yeah.
and being ready
Yeah.
to go
Being
get
ready.
that
Yep.
edge up. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is now 3 properties? Well, bought 3 houses, sold 1, now you have 2.
Yeah.
You'll probably buy another one.
Yeah.
You'll continue on the journey forever. It'll never be over.
Yes.
Why is homeownership important to you?
Yeah. Um, I think because I've seen what it can do, it's not, yes, there are some professions in your 9 to 5 where you can leave one job and, increase your salary. Um, but it's not this finite thing that you can own, you can control. That's in someone else's hands. This is us buying actual assets that will continue to appreciate until the end of time. If we keep this property that we purchased in 2020 for 100 years, like what is 3% in interest compounded over 100 years? I mean, and if you think about it, again, long term, like that's not generations. That's like me and my grandkid. Like that's it. Yes, it's generational, but it's not like it's so far removed. It's closer than you think. Home ownership is really the only thing that can definitively give you that, to where you can see it and you can touch it and you can own it and you can just continue to pass it down. Yes, you can do that with stocks, but you can't do that with a 9 to 5. You can't do that with material things. You can't do that with diamonds. Diamonds lose their value. I mean, yeah, it could be a family heirloom, but unless it's that diamond from the Titanic, like I don't, like I
It's
I
not
don't know.
appreciating at this, like,
Yeah, it's not an
crazy
appreciating asset. Yeah,
steady.
homeownership, um, in addition to, you know, just being in the space, being, around other people who are working towards the same goal, you're only going to um, exponentially enhance what you're able to do in real estate. So, like we talked about before, like getting around other people who do own homes. Like my future goal is to have all multifamily and then to, in 15 or so years, sell them all and have one apartment building or one high rise or one hotel or one something, and have that be managed. It's not, it's a bigger, it's again, it's just bigger picture, and a property, an actual asset, something that is not going somewhere,
Mm-mm.
can't be dictated by someone else, is just the ultimate part of our goal and our journey, which is freedom, life freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, and leaving something to our kids.
Yes. And not only is it physically there, it's not going anywhere, it's extremely necessary and valuable. It's
Mhm.
something that somebody always will need. There's
Yeah,
never going to be a time where someone doesn't need some
yeah,
place to live.
yeah.
Whether it's you, whether it's your family,
Mhm.
whether it's a random stranger who's going
Yes.
to pay rent to live,
Mhm.
which they already are doing somewhere else. Why not?
Mhm.
Why can't it be your house
Yeah,
and they help pay your mortgage
yeah.
and then some?
And if you think about, like, when I looked at the pay down from 2016 to 2020, when we sold our very first home,
Mhm.
after 4 or 5 years, that pay down really starts to make a dent. And you don't see anything for the first couple of years, but after a few years, we had the pay down in the mortgage, and then you have appreciation of the market, and then you have forced appreciation, and, we made a minor updates. I mean, cosmetic updates, and had it staged with our furniture. But from that first house, I mean, the buyers asked us for our curtains, they asked us for our head frame, our headboard. They asked for the way that I had the fireplace staged, like a
Ooh,
electric fireplace. I mean, that just it added value, and it's like if you were paying rent for 4 years, there is no added value. It's
no,
just money that's gone into somebody else's pocket. There's nothing. You
yeah,
don't you don't even get an A plus for paying. Like,
no.
there's nothing.
You
So,
well, you keep your credit good. You keep your credit good.
yeah,
Your credit is fine, but you got nothing to show. Like,
nothing.
you walk away and you
Yeah.
have not only do you not have any valuable asset to tap into,
Mhm,
you probably don't even have money in your bank because you've been spending it all on rent. I mean, are you
mhm,
able to save a little bit every month? Hopefully,
mhm.
so you save a little bit, but yeah, it's just you can't really catapult yourself to that next level
Yeah, yeah.
like you can. I took my first same thing. I had my first house in Mount Laurel, and it was about 4 years I was living there.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
started to chip down away at
Yeah,
paying back the loan
yeah.
balance, and then it appreciated, it got grew in value, and I was
Mhm,
able to take the money
mhm.
that I owned, the little piece that I owned, I was able to
Right.
take that money out
Yeah.
and buy my next house.
Mhm.
I didn't have savings money at that
Yeah,
time. I was just kind of making money, just paying my mortgage,
yeah.
maybe saving a little bit, but not a whole 'nother down payment. So I was
Right,
able to
right.
use it
Yeah,
for that.
yeah.
It
Great.
works. Very nice. Well, this was good. This
Yeah.
was great. Any other suggestions for people? Bigger Pockets podcast groups, if they are interested in buying real estate for the first time or
Mhm.
fifth time and or getting into investing in different ways. Any
Yeah.
other tips or tricks?
Yeah, I think even if you're not planning on being a full-blown investor, I think any decision, any small decision that you make in purchasing a home, um, like we're looking at our personal home right now, and my husband is like, "Oh, I really like this one. It's got a finished basement and like, oh, you can see where the TV was on the wall and the sunroom is enclosed and I could watch football in the sunroom and in the basement." Like, and I'm like, but the last one that we saw may need a little bit of work. It's on a tree-lined street. There's a park across the street. It's 1 mile from the school. It's, you know what I mean? So there's just any decision that you can make, whether it's you're buying your personal home and it's a difference of a driveway, a corner lot, um, a a little things. I mean, maybe even a Trex deck over a wooden deck. There
Yeah.
are little things that just there's another layer of oh, that's my dog in the background.
Oh,
There's
puppy.
another layer of just things that will set that house apart for like future value.
Right.
So, even if you don't if it's like it's not an investment, your personal home, you're gonna buy things that you like, and you're gonna live in it the way that you wanna live in it. You're gonna spend money, you're gonna update countertops and do things that you wouldn't do in a rental, but there's just that positioning of where it is, proximity to things, is it off New Jersey? Is it off 295 to where people can either work in Philly or they can work in New York? Is it close to transit? Like, whatever it is, just like think about all of those things because it's not likely, unless you're in a later place in life, that you're going to stay in this place for the next 30 years. It
Right.
may be your first home, it may be 5, it may be 10 years, but in 10 years, you're going to be like, oh, wow, like this is a desirable neighborhood. Or, everyone
Yeah.
else has one car garages, but we have two. Like, we thought the extra $5,000 on the buy was a lot then, but now we're getting 30 or 40 over the comps because we
Yes.
have this. So,
Yes.
just little things. Even if you're not going to be an investor, just think about, this could set us up
Future.
for yeah, yep,
Yeah, because even if you're not gonna invest in multiple properties, you're still making an investment, and
mhm,
you
correct,
are eventually going to exit this house at some
mhm,
point. You're not you're the likelihood of you dying in this house at 99 years old
Yeah.
is really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
low.
For
So
our generation, it's just not it's not where we're going with what our parents did. "Oh,
right.
this is our house. I've worked for the government for 30 years," you know,
Yeah, I got
that's
married at a young age, I had a kid at a young age, I'm here for 30 years,
it's
like,
just not what we're doing.
it's not. So focus, yeah, focus in on truly your desires and your plan for the future.
Mhm.
And it can be scary for people because they're
Mhm.
like, I don't know what I want to do. I
Mhm.
don't know where I want to be working. That's okay. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to anybody, journal about it,
Mhm.
read and listen to other people's stories because you'll
Yeah.
likely get inspired and you'll connect to somebody or someone out there and it'll help you make a decision. You don't want to go in just making a decision for today.
Yeah.
Oh, I really need this is so important to me today.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what is yourself going to say in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah.
And if you don't know about like the difference of the Trex versus the wooden deck, like
Yeah.
if you don't know, just ask. Ask your
Yeah.
uncle,
Yeah.
your grandma, like ask anybody,
Yeah.
ask your parents, ask your neighbors, what are things, or just Google it. I mean, just
Mhm. Yeah.
what are things that make a house appreciate better, faster,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then look out for those things.
Mhm. If you have a basement
Like,
that in the future could be, and again, this is like personal home. If you're buying a personal home and it's got a basement that's unfinished and you know that, you could put luxury vinyl plank down there, you can finish out the ceilings, you could just seal it. You could do drywall, you could DIY, you can put the effort in on your own over time. The good deals are made on the
yeah,
buy, because then you have time on your side to see how it plays out with appreciation in the future.
love it. Awesome. Well, great stuff. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Of
thanks for
course, if
having
anyone
me.
has questions about Amber's journey into buying first home, second, third, investing in
Mhm.
general, um, questions, comment on this video here or send her a message, send me a message, and we'll make sure get all your questions answered.
Yes. I love
Thank
it.
you,
We could
Amber.
talk about this all day.
I know. We'll do like a part